Welcome to Web3 Unpacked. Today we welcome Vibhu Norby, founder and CEO of Solana Spaces. Solana Spaces has brought Web3 into the real world with stores that aim to educate, connect, and immerse people in all things blockchain. We hope you enjoy. Solana Spaces, one of the more interesting projects across the wonderful world of Web3. Welcome and thank you for joining us, Vibhu.
Awesome to be here.
Thanks so much. Vibhu, so I guess let's jump into it. So can you give us a little bit more about your background in crypto, how you became familiar with Solana, and sort of the birth of Solana Spaces?
Sure, yeah. So I'm less of a crypto person or a long-time crypto person, more of a long-time retail and tech entrepreneur. I didn't really understand crypto until I saw NFTs last year, and that resonated with me a lot, having grown up collecting, sports cards and other physical collectibles. And sort of late last year, I started thinking about what was next for me in my career, and I knew I wanted to do something in retail, and I'd been pretty interested and maybe a little bit degenerate with NFTs. At the time, maybe flowing between Ethereum and Solana, and me and a few folks from Solana started talking about what a store would look like, what it would do, and how it could be an important piece of sort of bringing new people into the chain. And this was about November last year, a little bit over a year ago, and we kind of got to work and officially started this in March.
Was the Vibhu, was the original kind of core idea of Spaces to really was it an onboarding vehicle, or was it just does it go well beyond that?
Well, yeah, the initial idea, and this has changed a lot. I mean, as we open the space and learn more about how people were using it. But yeah, initially the idea was to insert ourselves into in the middle of a customer's journey and maybe an unexpected place, because by this time, if you haven't looked at crypto, you've ignored it willfully, and if you're just kind of walking around a shopping center or a major shopping street and you see this beautiful store, it's kind of hard to ignore. So we wanted to be disruptive in that way to a customer's attention and show them a different look for Solana. The store was designed to be that crypto friend for those that don't have one. That gives you your first on-chain assets, gives you your first currency, obviously some swag, and teaches you just at the highest level, like how does a blockchain work and why might you be interested in this?
Awesome. Yeah, we were talking earlier before, Vibhu, and Matt and I took a trip down to Hudson Yards and checked out the space, and no expectations. We didn't know what to expect. We just knew, we liked using Solana or Sol as a means of transacting for various ways, various items across the Web3. And we were really, really surprised. The store, the actual environment was super clean, almost like an Apple store. Wasn't flooded with too many things or distractions. Onboarding to the Phantom wallet was really, really easy with assistance, if needed, by clerks there, which was great. NFTs, swag, everything. And it was just really cool. And, maybe you can tell us about some of the other spaces that you're planning to open up. And, I think you guys were talking about maybe opening up or launching London soon. That's really exciting. Tell us a little bit more about the next stores that you might be launching.
Right. So we announced something called Spaces DAO at Breakpoint, which is the big Solana conference, about a month ago. And Spaces DAO is something that we've been working on since the very beginning of this project. To me, the thing that makes blockchains very interesting is that they're really community building tools at their heart. And they're, people work together towards, kind of broadly for the L1 itself, right? They work together to increase the value and the utility of kind of the core ecosystem and maybe its token in some cases. But then even within like, community, NFT communities and projects, there's a big, getting together people to work on projects that are bigger than any individual person. And so when we thought about how might we expand this concept one day, our idea was to do it through the community and allow people to build their own Solana stores in their own homes. And we had this idea called Geo NFTs. We thought, hey, what if you issued the membership to the franchise or the rights to the franchise on chain? And what would that look like? How would you build that technology? So that's something that we announced last month as well, called Geo NFTs. And when we announced it, the response was actually insane. I mean, people loved the store. I mean, and people have visited the stores from all over the globe. And even, but to be honest, before we announced the DAO, the most common question we would get is like, when London, when Lisbon, when India, right? And so we knew that there was going to be a lot of enthusiasm for this. And I think we received well over 100 applications in the first couple of weeks. And we have about, I would say, 30-ish, I would consider like serious projects to bring spaces to their city. And our role in this is that we open sourced all of the things that we've built. So all the software and the kiosks, the fixture designs, some of our back-end tools that we built to power the space. And the idea is that we just empower you with these resources. And then my team provides a little bit of help as well in terms of, partnerships and potentially capital and other things like that. So like London, very early stage conversations, but we the very first location that's opening through Spaces DAO is this month in Bangalore in India. Oh. And it's the world's first Web3 pizzeria, and it's called Sorrento Solana. And it's a space that when you walk into it, the front part of it is like what you see at Hudson Yards. It's a store and it has merch, and we have some like maybe interesting like food themed Solana merch coming, just kind of fun things like that. But the difference between this pizzeria and the store in New York City is that the tutorials that you normally do on the screens as you walk around and learn about all the different projects in Solana are done at your dining table, and each table has a different theme and a different partner that's kind of giving you some knowledge about Solana or NFTs or DeFi and whatnot as you're eating. So this is the Spaces DAO is a very, it isn't just kind of stamping these out all over the world. It's a toolkit, for people to kind of remix into their own experiences that they're interested in. And I'm like, yeah, the things that people are building are like out of this world. Honestly, there's just some crazy stuff happening.
Yeah, I love that it's not prepackaged. You're giving the foundational tools out and letting people be creative with how they express with those tools. Fantastic. And is there any other fun ones you can tease out for us, Vibhu?
Yeah, we have a number of people. I think the most common way you're going to see Solana Spaces show up is through co-working spaces. There's some very, very cool all over the globe. There are these like Web3 co-working spaces that are popping up. People in crypto love to do business together, love to be together. Yeah. You'll see us kind of occupying the corners of or like rooms or the ground floors of a bunch of spaces, Singapore, Canada, and so on. We have a few people that are gallery operators who've been trying to figure out how they can introduce crypto to their traditional art experience. That one is the first one of that will go live probably in the next 2 months in Vienna, in Austria, and Prague as well. And we have some folks that are going to be taking over cafes, like coffee shops, and rebranding them and fashioning them into crypto meetup centers, but also integrating Solana into the payment tools and putting some of the wallet onboarding things around the space. So yeah, there's any kind of commercial real estate can be repurposed in some interesting way or remixed with crypto. And my hope here is that I don't know how any of these things are going to work out. I mean, they could be really successful, they could be massive failures, but I do think that I've always prided myself on and our team on building mental models and other interesting experiments that can be, inspirations to people. And they're just, when I first came into this project, there are a lot of interesting IRL experiments happening, but there are very few that had actually come to the real world. They're mostly like DAOs that were forming around like buying cities, buying co-working spaces, these kind of things. None of which have like had real world traction here. So through this entity, I think we are saying, hey, if no one else is going to do it, let's go and build the entire tree of IRL ideas, enable them with Solana, and let's see what happens next.
Just curious, do the spaces that you're building, are they all Solana spaces, or are they maybe, like, say, the pizza shop, for example? Is that a pizza shop powered by Solana, so to speak? How does the branding on these places work?
So branding is composable too. The pizzeria is called Sorrento Solana, so they did take the name Solana. But many of the co-working spaces, for example, they're retaining the name of the space, and Solana is showing up on the wall of the the corner or the room that they're taking up. We don't really have a view on that. I think, and if you think about Solana as a brand, it isn't a traditional brand. It's more akin to like the word like United States. Like there's nobody, like you don't have to go to the like president of the United States to like ask them if you can like put the flag on like a piece of merch, right? You just do it. Right. I think in that sense, like it's kind of permissionless, and certainly like a very common question has been, will you allow cross-chain projects in your space? And we've said, I don't really care. We have many cross-chain. In fact, our core sponsor Phantom has just announced cross-chain support. So, but it is my deep opinion that some of the things that we do in our space in terms of gasless NFTs, in terms of Solana Pay, would be difficult to do in other chains. So I think the infrastructure itself will probably remain Solana, but the projects that you see and the events and all that kind of stuff, we very much embrace a multi-chain future.
Awesome. Yeah, and I love the idea of open source and now open source branding. That's kind of fun too. Vibhu, when we go into the space, we see, partnerships with, say, Bored Ape Yacht Club for NFTs and other kind of big 3.0 brands. Is there plans to really tap into, further blur the lines between traditional and crypto merchants in the kind of the partnership world?
So let me start here. How do people use a store, and how is that different from what I expected? What we expected when we designed it was that people are going to follow this linear path where they got a wallet, and then they took tutorials, and then they bought merch. And the reality is that 60% of the people that walk into our space do exactly the opposite, which is they start with the product and the merch, and that's kind of their entrance point into learning more about, okay, what's behind these things, right? So that data point and watching people's enthusiasm for the products that we make kind of have changed our mind a bit about the potential for the business. And I don't think that crypto merch is like anything like sort of like picking up a T-shirt at a conference for a startup. Like, I think the products that people are building out of these NFT communities, both things that are being created by the NFT community, but also by their community members, are of incredible quality. And I think they carry a lot of the aspects of what I would look at for like maybe an upcoming fashion apparel kind of brand. And so I think where the store what the store can be is a distribution point for Web3 brands and Web2 brands that are doing. So if you're a Web2 brand coming into crypto for the first time through our stores, dropping a collaborative merch collection like what we did with ASICS in November, where they launched a Solana shoe with NFTs. That's an amazing way to use our space. And then Web3 brands who are introducing physical products, we want to be the very first distribution point for those. And we have a lot of infrastructure to offer those kinds of brands, right? Between CryptoPay, between tutorials that happen in the DApp browser, all the kind of native functionality of Solana. So yeah, we're super focused on physical products. I think that has been that biggest difference between where we were expecting to go and what has actually happened. We just sell a lot of stuff, and you can't really ignore it at this point.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and you got to love the discount you get when you use like Phantom Wallet. So we can do all of our clothing shopping there from now on.
It is a deep, just for our listeners, it is a pretty deep discount when you use
it was a pretty good
Phantom
discount.
Wallet. It's pretty
50%.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's my new H&M. Just curious. So yeah, you're building up all these incredible different partnerships. When are you approaching brands right now, or are they approaching you? How does that work? I guess, and when you do approach a brand, what are their main questions? What are they looking to gain when they're saying, okay, let's add an NFT component to our business. Let's have a phygital. Let's move in this direction.
Yeah, that word makes me laugh. Phygital.
It is a weird one, right?
I've heard that way too much in the last couple months.
Yeah.
You think it'll stick, or is the word going to go?
It's like, I don't know. It bothers me that people have been using so often. Like even the most popular article about us is something has phygital in the title, so I can't really dismiss it as much as I want to not say this word. I think so. I'll start with Web3 brands. Like we've, the marketing for this business has been a sensation, like a viral sensation across platforms, most obviously on Twitter, but on TikTok as well. Like because the store is so visual relative to everything else in crypto, like people take videos, they take pictures, they share them, they get reposted. Like there's a huge, we have massive reach, like way beyond what people realize. And so we hear from dozens of brands every day that are Web3 side that want to do things in the store. On the Web2 side, we're still building evidence. We've maybe approached only a handful of brands that I'm very familiar with in my past, and we've done collaborative products with them. Like we have this amazing, I don't have it with me right now, but we have this Peak Design backpack that they Solanify. We did the ASIC shoe. We sold almost 3,000 pairs in 5 days with them. We have this preppy emergency kit. So I would say like so far and part of it is that these projects take a lot longer to come about if you're talking about working with a traditional brand on this stuff. But I think right now we're in the playbook building stage. Here's how you might collaborate with us. Here are the primitives that you can use that touch crypto and so on. And here's the evidence that this is important to you. But this is very emergent for us. I didn't expect, this wasn't like the goal of the space initially. But I've realized, and my team has realized, that I think we can be quite the introduction for these traditional brands. And you'll see us next year doing a lot more of these kinds of drops. But I have nothing to share right now.
Awesome. Well, I mean, Solana as a brand is so different from everything else we've seen. And, I forgot when you guys, started to drop hints on the Solana phone, but man, did that spark interest. Now, having a pure Web3 enabled, hardware, software device in your pocket is interesting enough. For us, we started to kind of peel back the layers and go, okay, what are they really up to, right? To us, it's such a smart move in general. And some would argue, wow, you're getting into the mobile hardware game. That is bonkers, crazy, you're nuts. But I think there is a legitimate, a giant leap forward that you could take the mobile industry through hardware and software, and obviously wallets, cold storage, all that good stuff. So we see it as a really interesting move to kind of get into people's not only into their malls, in their towns, via Solana Spaces, but in their pockets. And everyone knows that's the first place everyone goes for everything. So, I mean, how does the phone play into this? And it is a big leap for you guys, and we want it to be 100% successful.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say that both phone, the actual physical phone, and the Solana Spaces are separate from Solana Foundation,
Yep.
Solana Labs, independently developed. Obviously, working closely with those teams, very closely. But yeah, I mean, I think so. Solana, to me, stands out in two ways amongst many of the layer ones. I think one, Solana's very community oriented overall. I mean, you can, if you're part of that, if you see what's happening on Twitter and other platforms, like Solana community is the most engaged. It's been built kind of a person at a time, and so and it's also very sizable compared to most blockchains. So when we're thinking about product development, I think we very much are okay with producing things that are catering to just our community and allowing that to be sort of, growing, sort of inward out versus saying, hey, here's a crypto phone that everyone should buy, and it's going to be like the entry point. I think with the phone and even with the store to some degree, we look at what's happening in the Solana community, how we can improve their lives, and that kind of informs the product roadmap. And I think the phone very obviously improves people's lives that use Solana because it's very hard to use crypto apps on your mobile device. Not only that, it's becoming increasingly difficult from a Apple, standpoint. Like they've been cracking down on crypto applications. They've been asking for a fee on the NFT sales and things like that, like things that just don't make any sense, right? And so this is an installation for our community to say, hey, like everyone uses their phone as the first device these days, and we need to make crypto a first-class application on mobile. Now, as an onboarding tool, I think it's a very tough thing. I mean, this is my frank opinion. It's an expensive phone, the first version. And to understand the utility of it, you really need to be doing a lot of stuff with crypto. Mm-hmm. But luckily, again, Solana has enough of those types of people already in the community that will be interested. From a marketing standpoint, though, this is another piece of our toolkit to be able to show that we're really thinking deeply about what crypto does over the next decade plus. This is very much not a short-term type of thing, and the stores aren't either. And both of these projects, by the way, came together at the same time, and we work closely together with them. We obviously showcase the phone, we sell it, and when the phone is available to the public, you're going to see our stores transform as well quite a bit. We're going to offer a much more like typical kind of phone onboarding experience. You'll be able to pick it up, sign up for service, and so on. So there is definitely a play between these things, but I would say like these all come from the same place, which is that we really think of like how can we just improve the lives of our community first. Let's let the growth kind of happen one at a time.
Yeah, it is. It truly is about, we see just, talking to lots of people in the space, Web3 is first and foremost about building strong communities, whether it's a belief or products or whatnot. So you guys have been doing a great job, as you mentioned, amazing community, which leads me to another thought. And, it's kind of unavoidable to not bring up the idea of FTX and what's going on, right? Not that we have to kind of, peel that onion too much, but have you seen sentiment or perception change around the Solana ecosystem, communities, brand, etc.?
I kind of feel like it's one of those events that if you already hated Solana, it just sort of like entrenched you further, and if you were deep inside the Solana community, had the same effect as well, because we all bonded together in this time to extricate, a bad actor in our system. And it's not like, any of the builders that are building things in Solana were like benefiting from the kinds of things that Sam was doing. I think in a lot of ways, this was the last remaining thing that people really disliked about Solana, right? The most common criticism, I think, from like the ETH community is it's a centralized VC chain, and frankly, FTX was the single largest holder of Solana, and now forcefully that's being dismantled. So I think from a narrative standpoint, long term, it has some benefits. But yeah, sentiment. This year has been tough for everybody in crypto. Like I don't think it's hard to answer that question like in an objective way, because from when I got started in November last year to today, everyone got wrecked in different ways, and we've all been part of these types of things. So yeah, it's hard to say that it's like made it worse or better, but I've been really proud of our community for the way that we've come together, and I think it could have been worse. And we got affected too. Everyone had like a little piece of this. Like they're our biggest financial sponsor in Miami, and we'd done a lot of work for them in the last few months, building this lounge, and we built a whole new onboarding system for them, and so there's some, there's like these kinds of things are all over the place. But at the end of the day, most of the companies in our ecosystem didn't have direct exposure financially, didn't lose money. Of course, some did. And so I think the real effects are not as present as kind of the sentimental effects. But there's still more time. It's still very early in the story, and we'll kind of see what happens.
Yeah, and I think, Vibhu, you use the term long term, right? We often talk about long term. Most people don't understand that really, if you're truly in this space, yes, that was an implosion that happened, but our noses are still pointed north, and we're still developing, we're still designing, we're still creating products that are great and for the future, for now and for the future. And that brings me to the idea of, the narrative really, really needs to change, right? And the idea of how you use like Sol or any other alternative types of, projects or tokens, from a pure play DeFi kind of investment game standpoint, to a utility type of standpoint. Yeah. Like for me, it's yes, I make investments. Yes, as soon as Solana appeared, on the open markets, I was interested and played with it from an investment standpoint. Not truly a super long-term investment standpoint, but it was more about getting into the ecosystem, dripping funds in, so I actually can do things. Start a DAO. Yes. Burn, mint NFTs, start campaigns through through ARC, our company. People have to realize that it's still full steam ahead, and there's still amazing things being done.
Yeah, I'm very much on this side. I never understood on any of the tokens the fundamental drivers of value here, other than a lot of speculation, and for that reason, I never thought of crypto as an investment for me. I have a family, I have kids. I never could have imagined putting my net worth into this in that sense. And so since I got into crypto, the way I've used it and I continue to use it is that when there's something I'm interested in participating in, Claynosaur's mint or whatever it is that's happening in Solana, I go to the exchange. And I on-ramp what I need, and I put it in Phantom, and that's it. So, I think we've gone through, and maybe it's not even done yet, this like wild speculative bubble that in some ways, part of the reason why the pain hasn't been as insane as it looks on paper is because a lot of people got in very early and got driven up, and it was all paper gains, and nobody actually like the losses themselves were kind of more like returning back to what was.
That's a good point.
And that's I think that's also true for a lot of FTX's balance sheet. Like the supposed size of it is probably a lot less, but just in reality, like people were not there weren't that many people buying at the top. So yeah, like if you remove the speculative layer and you think about the really interesting primitives that crypto offers, that stuff is not only like here to stay, but it continues to grow, and it's something that we very deeply in the business model and in the way the store is designed. What we teach you about is not at all about trying to tell you about the benefits of like putting your net worth into Solana tokens, like that like people accuse us of that a lot. Like you guys are like trying to like, obviously on the surface we don't tell you to buy the token, but people say, well, yeah, but of course, like as a Solana logo, so you have, at some level, like that's what you're doing, right? You're marketing the blockchain, and like I promise, there's no it's not even part of our thought process. The thought process here is, look, there's amazing things that people can build with blockchains, and I want to show you about those things, because what you've heard so far isn't what's really happening. And the shakeout from this year, again, long term and even short term, is that not only is all the speculation leaving the system, but all the speculators and all the people that were building entities to take advantage of the crazy kind of token going up phenomenon, this all being taken out of the system. And I have a lot of respect for everyone that's continued to build. These are the people are building interesting tech, because no one is making money on the token stuff. So there has to be the utility aspect, and we've been experimenting a lot, not just in the store. I don't know if you've seen some of the digital products that we've announced, like Drip.haus. Have you seen this one yet?
Not yet, but we're definitely going to check that out.
So Drip.haus is our first digital product. We launched it 2 weeks ago. This is a pure example of taking the same primitives, but taking the speculation out of it. It's a list that's grown to almost 35,000 signups in the first 2 weeks. And every week on Wednesdays, we drop an art NFT that we commissioned from a top Solana artist, and we just do it for free. And there's no secondary, there's no speculation on these assets. You can do this with Solana. It's very cheap to mint. And this is leading into some other interesting things that we're building on the shop to earn side. Again, we're taking the same thing, NFTs, but we're removing the idea that this is something that you're going to trade. And I think this is happening all over the place. And I think the next wave is going to be not driven by the token going up. It's going to be driven by people building interesting user applications where maybe the user doesn't even realize they're using a blockchain. So that's my belief in what's happening.
Yeah,
well,
I would say we definitely echo a lot of your sentiment, and part of why we're sticking around with Solana and will continue to is because of everything you just said. It wasn't pumping coins. It wasn't hype. Really, what never really was. The coins were, and Sol was a means to an end. It was a means for you to get into the network and start using your products. And frankly, you're one of the few projects that actually does that and offers that. So kudos. It's awesome. I think you're not dinging your brand at all. I think you guys, your positioning and direction and values are all in alignment, and just keep going with it. Just stay the course.
Appreciate you.
Vibhu, can I ask you, I'm curious, now that we're sort of moving into maybe more of a utility phase, I think, for crypto at large, what do you think might be some of the big innovations that people haven't been thinking about yet? Because it does seem like people were so focused on the exchange element, on which coin was going to succeed. Now we're almost a little bit freed from that paradigm a bit.
Yeah, I think you're seeing the beginning. Like if you can remember what the App Store was like on the iPhone in 2010, 2011, 2012. You had these amazing companies being built at that time, like Uber and Foursquare and Airbnb and so on. I think many of these applications have a chance to be rebuilt with crypto primitives and a different sense of ownership and community. So I'm fascinated by projects like Teleport. If you've seen that, Teleport.xyz, it's a decentralized ride-sharing company.
Yeah.
I think STEPN, is kind of working their way back to being a Foursquare type of thing. They've been doing interesting badges and more location-centric types of activities. And obviously, they also had a big speculative run-up, and the user base is quite large. And in both of these cases, the thing that those two have in common, at least, is that the idea that these are built on Solana is very. I don't think many of their users will know. And then USDC as this supreme token, I think is whether you like that or not with Circle, however you feel about it, there is no doubt that USDC is going to be the biggest token on Solana and maybe other chains as well. The experience is just so good of being able to send someone money instantaneously with no fees. So how do NFTs and art and other things kind of get reinvented around stablecoins? You see a little bit of it, but it hasn't. Still not a mainstream type of thing. And I'm really. I really think that crypto fashion is going to be a multi-billion-dollar industry. I think, we've had I've gone back and forth on Twitter with people around Web3 coffee, for example. Starbucks, did this big deal with Polygon where they're putting their loyalty, some version of their loyalty program on
Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is very interesting. But I have to tell you that within Solana, we have two coffee brands that we launched with. I know there's a third one. There are being natively built up from the community around coffee and loyalty and so on. One's the DJ Cafe, which we have the first Web3 coffee shop is in our store in Miami. Another one's Just Coffee, was just launched in New York City this morning. So I just think it's hard to relatively hard to parachute into crypto and kind of just tack it on, because it just ends up being, here's an NFT collection of our logo or our brand being generated in 10,000 pictures, versus hey, what would it mean to build a coffee brand and coffee shop and loyalty from the ground up with a community? That is, I think, again, 30 years out, I would take my bet on the startups who are thinking about this natively over the large companies that are parachuting in. That's my opinion. Over the next 5 years, definitely the big companies, but so super interested in physical brands, physical concepts being re-engineered from the ground up with crypto stuff. That's I don't know if that's what's going to happen as the biggest thing, but that's personally what I am interested in, and I'm very focused on enabling.
Absolutely, and it's interesting, the Uber to the Teleport, 2.0 to 3.0, and looking at what's happening with Twitter now. Not that we're going to go down that road, but that's a deep rabbit hole. It's my understanding that kind of a decentralized Twitter-like and or Twitter environment was Jack Dorsey's kind of Uber vision for it. So it'll be interesting where the communications end of things goes as well.
Why do you think, just curious, because I think it's a great point, Why is it that ground up has an advantage over brands trying to parachute in? Like, where do you think that disconnect would take place from larger brands that are trying to move into Web3? Why wouldn't they be open into Web3? Why wouldn't they be open into Web3? Why wouldn't they be open into Web3?
Okay, but we got the question, right?
I got the question. Yeah, I totally understand the question. I'm going to steal something from Benedict Evans, who used to work at Andreessen Horowitz. He talked about the idea of when a new channel is formed, that it's very hard for the folks that have dominated a different channel to rearrange their culture to kind of fit that, right? I mean, in the same way that Blockbuster tried to do digital, and got, yes, they were larger, and in theory they could move faster, but Netflix just absolutely destroyed them, right? And I think you could argue that to some extent, like Amazon with e-commerce, like I having like for almost 10 years attempted to introduce like interesting technology concepts to big retailers. I can say that you need support from the very top. You need, at a corporate, they need to understand the problem set. They need to understand how the consumers are different and what their expectations are. And that needs to be resounded throughout an organization. And the bigger the organization is, the harder it is for them to adopt. And sometimes innovation gets, you see a lot of the first team to go when something isn't working is like the innovation team or the Web3 team. I think it's going to happen as well as some big corporate,
Always.
right? Like, yeah, like, hey, we're budgeting here, and you guys are spending $20 million on something a year that's not doesn't seem to be like to working. Like, it just, those people get rooted out. So there isn't like a long-term commitment there. And people underrate how fast technology companies can grow. And this has happened time and time again. In every case, like the disruptor, in an industry, you think about Airbnb versus hotels, everyone underrates how fast these things can grow. And how fast a startup can move relative to a large org. By the time Coca-Cola drops their NFT collection, maybe all the liquidity is gone and nobody cares about art NFTs. Maybe they moved on to something else, right? So, so speed, culture, these play a big role in that. But this is not always true. I think about Amazon and Walmart. Like Walmart actually figured out e-commerce in a massive way, but they're way behind Amazon. Yeah. I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars short, and Amazon basically, if you had asked Walmart in 1996 whether they could have imagined not being the world's biggest retailer today, they never would have imagined, right? So it can be figured out, but I just believe that there's like in every category we're going to see a Web3 native company that just becomes like the largest entity in this business, in e-commerce and whatever it is. Maybe they're being built today. I don't know. I would guess probably in this kind of market conditions. Amazing time to build. Amazing time to have balls of steel and just figure out what needs to happen to survive. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And I always hear that from top investors. When the market's down, it's time to build, or shift or reorg or whatever you need to do to kind of take the next step and look, 2, 3, 4 years out. And, the idea of cultural change, I think that just hits it right in the bullseye because, it's almost easier to start fresh with a community of like-minded, folks. And look at what Elon's doing. I applaud what he's doing, and he's really trying to make change. But he's also, he's fighting an internal battle and external battles. But we'll see where that goes. I mean, it's
I love really Twitter. Twitter has been awesome the last couple of weeks.
Oh, it's
dynamite. But I mean, this is, you can only do this with. I don't know if this has ever happened before, where you have like someone who's doing it all in private as a private company, and just forcefully putting their vision on top of the company, doesn't care about the economics. That's just not how like most public companies operate, right? Like
not at all.
This CEO has a lot of people to be accountable to, and And so every new initiative cannot be that deep, right? It has to start very, very small, and it can and therefore it can take a long time for it to grow. So you're kind of like, even the big companies doing this are basically competing as a startup, yes, with more capital, but with less buy-in, right? So I'm very curious to see how these things play out, but I have to believe that, not in every case, but I have to believe that Web3 is a new channel and that it's going to be filled with new things.
Absolutely. And in fact, using Twitter just like everyone else for years, many years, but I've really, slowed down because it was just a lot of noise. Now I'm coming back. I find myself coming back more and more and more, following certain people, doing this, doing that, and Twitter Spaces is phenomenal. It
Amazing
truly
product.
is the town square. And I believe Elon is amplifying that and really creating an inclusive environment. So, okay, enough of Elon.
Comes up in every conversation.
Yeah.
Do you see, just curious from your vantage point, it's not directly your business, but do you see a sort of decentralization of social media down the pipeline?
Probably not. I think it's. I think that social applications benefit from centralization at some very deep levels, because the way that Facebook and all these entities grew was through basically like algo feeds, understanding deeply how people connected, who their friends were, what they were doing. So it's sort of like anti-privacy in a sense, and I think the crypto community. I think the things that would need to happen to make a decentralized social network actually work would require crypto people to rearrange their beliefs, and I don't really see. I don't think it's a very good fit. I know that I'm very interested. I've tried Farcaster and some of these other things.
Mastodon, things like that.
Yeah.
Mastodon, yeah, but I. Not only is the business model a bad fit, but also the network effects around social are much more powerful than in any other context. So, I more think that things like TikTok are going to replace. I think AI is the area where social media can get disrupted, less on the crypto side, and I kind of think of AI and crypto as these counter forces in a way. So yeah, I'd say that's more where we're going versus into the scarcity world. By default, with social things, you don't want them to be scarce, right? You want them to be very. You want everyone you want the information to be free. So I don't see it personally.
Yeah, it's perhaps that's a whole other episode unto itself.
I say this as someone who built social. I was in my first company, which was acquired by Nest, was a social media app for the iPhone. It's called EveryMe, and we we had signed up maybe 5 million users in our first week. It was back when the iPhone just launched, or the App Store just launched, and even back then, I could feel the difficulty of trying to acquire users against Facebook. They were just so efficient, and so I worked at MySpace as well. I spent a lot of time working on social stuff, and I'm struggling to see it.
Yeah, it's a really tough nut to crack, and no one has a crystal ball, obviously. But where we're very interested in is the idea of you as the user no longer being the product, and the product, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it may be, becomes solely the product again. And we enter through a wallet where we have control over first-party data and what we give out and don't give. I think the biggest Web3 change for me, in my eyes, will be about permissions, first and foremost. What information is, guarding your own permissions, basically. or a guard wall that you have the ability to send whatever information wherever to whoever, and control that. That could be a first step.
I somewhat agree on the messaging side, and there's a very interesting company in our ecosystem called Dialect, Dialect, that is a here, maybe I can show it real quick, but so it's where's my camera? So this is you sign in with Solana with your wallet address, and so I think that's interesting. It's kind of one-to-one, right? But the thing with that you want with Twitter is you want massive amplification of your content. You want it to be a broadcast medium, and you want the algorithm to be feeding this to people who have an interest in it. So I think that particular use case, I'm just struggling. I just don't see it. I agree on messaging. I think messaging could be a really big thing to be built on crypto. And maybe Twitter DMs is that thing too, and maybe they do something with crypto there. Yeah.
Got you.
Jumping back just a little bit, to the stores and the spaces again. When people are jumping into a Solana space, where are most of the questions taking place? Where do you feel that people are most unfamiliar with Web3? Because you are creating, and I think we're all trying to create this sort of on-ramp from a Web2 mindset into Web3.
Yeah, when we first started the project, I think we really tried to focus on education and like teaching people about blockchain, because I did think there was a big knowledge gap there, and as we kind of like watch customers experience the store, really what we focused on was just showcasing like digital collectibles effectively, and the idea that like there's like things that are information based that you own and they're in your wallet, and so we really don't try to teach you very much. It's just like hasn't worked, and people don't care. So I can't say that. I can't say that there's been like a lot of lessons other than that it's not interesting. Everyone wants to check out the games. Everyone wants to check out StepN. They want to see the monkey pictures. So I think we've just like dumbed down the experience quite a bit and said, here's some, you have an app, and inside of this app, you can collect things into it. Some of those things have value, some of them don't. And each of these has a deeper story. And if you want to explore that, you can go on Google, you can go on Twitter, and you look at what's happening around these communities. I think that's kind of the level where we try to keep it at. And other than maybe at the most basic level, some security things, right? Like this is your wallet. If someone has your seed phrase, someone has your private key, they can take everything you have. So keep that safe. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, we're definitely not addressing any deep questions, nor do we really want to. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
We definitely appreciate the kind of less is more kind of philosophy that Solana Spaces have been taking. Don't bombard. We have enough. There's enough white noise out there. It's a really.
I'm sure you experience. If you ask, they will answer, right? If you ask and you have knowledge, and people do come in with a lot of knowledge, then my people, for sure, our ambassadors are capable of talking about it. But if you come in and you're brand new to Solana, I promise you, we're not going to take you into the rabbit hole. We're going to just show you what it is, and if you want to dive in your own time, you can.
Yeah, the teams were very knowledgeable, very helpful, friendly, everything. And they weren't, to your point, they weren't pushing you into it. It was like, hey. Save. It was almost an afterthought. Oh, by the way, if you use Phantom, you get 50% off. Like, all right, bonus points. There you go. Awesome.
Anyway, Vibhu, I just want to double check with you. Do you have any extra time, or do you have a hard 3:30 stop? So I'll wrap it up.
I have a hard stop, and also my laptop's about to die.
Uh-oh. Yeah, we should wrap
Yeah,
up.
we'll use this as the wrap up then. Alrighty, cool. So, Vibhu, can you tell us, I guess, people who are new to Solana or people who are already familiar, any big announcements or anything they can look forward to in the coming weeks, months with Solana Spaces? Where can they learn more? Where can they find a store? Anything like that?
Yeah. So the easiest way to keep up to date with us is to follow us on Twitter at Solana Spaces. We are the most popular Solana account that isn't NFT specific on Twitter, and from there you can learn a lot about many interesting things that we're doing, not just with stores. Our stores are in New York City and in Wynwood and Miami, and they're open every day of the week. For the holidays, we have a lot of focus on products. We have a bunch of product reveals coming out pretty much every day. I've got a beanie to announce today. We just got these new coffee beans in this morning. So there's always something new. And I really encourage people to follow us on Twitter because, and again, in addition to the store, we are the most innovative account in all of crypto, not just in Solana. And we're always giving people free stuff, free NFTs, running all kinds of experiments. Like today, we are sending to the International Space Station a list of all of our followers. And they're going to beam it into deep space with a message, please whitelist us in case an alien civilization might be dropping an NFT collection sometime in the distant billions of light years away. We're always doing something funny and interesting, and we've brought in, just through our Twitter account alone, we've brought in tens of thousands of people into Solana for the first time. Drip.haus, drip.haus. This list might be 50,000 people by the end of the year. We're giving people free art. You can't really miss it. Again, another amazing way to bring people into Solana. If you're looking where to get started, well, look, you don't have to start with an empty wallet. You can start with some art. So I'm just going to put everyone over there. It's just is a one of a kind resource.
Yeah, fun projects. And thank you so much, Vibhu, for joining us.
Yeah,
we've had such a great conversation, and we look forward to potentially having you back on, hopefully, for deeper discussions. And we're always watching what you guys are doing, IRL and, Solana proper. We're always watching great projects. Everyone kind of dig in, enjoy what they're doing. Very utility driven and fun driven. So thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.